That's what I would think.
Yeah.
You?
Yeah.
Just grant one and doesn't
Want to do it? Henry Zoo.
this one.
Hello. Thank you. Okay, we're ready to begin. Welcome to the April 2nd meeting, 2024, of the Rybrook Zoning Board of Appeals. With us this evening, we have 4 of the 5 members. And basically that translates to, in order to get an application approved this evening, you have to have a successful vote from 3 out of the 4 members. That being said, if any of you want to adjourn your application to the May meeting, which we assume will be conducted, you're free to do so. And we'll let you do that up until any time that your application is being heard. So if you have any questions at that time, you could ask. This evening, with the 4 members, we have village building inspector Steve Hughes. We have counsel Christian Gates representing the village, representing the Board of Trustees, David Heiser, sitting over there by the wall, and a video coordinator is Fred Seifert. Is there anyone at this time who would like to request their application to be moved to the May calendar? Okay, there being none, let's go ahead with the first application. When your application is called, please go to the podium, state your name, your address. If you're representing the applicant, your role as agent. The first application is application ZBA24-002 Dan Zhu, 5 Deer Run, legalize interior and exterior additions and alterations, rear elevated deck expansion with steps to grade, swimming pool, patio, walkway expansions, outdoor kitchen, koi pond, gazebo, concrete patio, sports court, generator, fencing, and finished basement. Who is representing the applicant? Please come to the podium, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Daniel Tartaglia, 800 Westchester Avenue, Rybrook, New York. I'm an attorney representing both the current property owner, Dan Zhu, Julia Zhu, and the former property owner, who's here with us this evening as well, is Joseph Pissell. This application came about as a result of a sale of the property from the Pissells to the Zhus back in August of 2023. There apparently was an open building permit that needed to be closed out during the course of the closing, and the building inspector visited the site in order to make sure that that permit could be closed out, and upon inspecting the backyard saw that over the course of many, many years, things had been added to the backyard in locations that either required variances, and in the case of 2 of the improvements actually required us to go to the Board of Trustees to get a hold harmless agreement because the northerly border of the property, there is a drainage easement. And if you go by the property, if you drove by, you'll see that there's a catch basin in Deer Run, and so presumptively there's a stormwater line that runs along the northerly portion of the property. In cases like this, there's oftentimes an easement agreement or some kind of an easement instrument that that runs to the favor of the village for purposes of maintenance and repairs to the easement area or to the facility within the easement area. In this case, it's probably some kind of a stormwater pipe, in case the village has to go in and either clean it out or restore it or repair it or replace it. That easement agreement typically keeps the property owner from putting anything along the easement area, depending upon what was presented to the planning board at the time that the subdivision was approved. In this particular case, this subdivision was approved in the early 80s, and at the time, the easement which appears on the subdivision plat didn't have any notes on the map with regard to restrictions within that easement area, and there was no recorded easement with regard to restrictions within that easement area.
I apologize, is the easement a zoning issue?
Well, it's part of the history of the project and the application as to the first thing that we needed to accomplish prior to coming here. So we went to the Board of Trustees and got the hold harmless agreement and got that signed, and that was recorded. Now, within that easement area are two of the items that are on for variance this evening. One is a koi pond, and one is the what's being called a barbecue and kitchen area. If you take a look at the survey, you can see that those are located within the easement area. So the legality of leaving those there within the easement area, having nothing to do with zoning, but the legality of leaving those there on an easement running to the benefit of the village has been taken care of. What's left is a bunch of improvements or modifications that were made in the backyard that were done over a period of over 20 years that require some setback variances and one variance to impervious surface. So I've laid out in my correspondence to the board what those variances are. They're taken from the denial letter from the building department, and you can see that on the second page of my submission what the variances are, what's being requested. I will tell you that the so-called concrete patio sports court was originally a grass area where there was a jungle gym and some other play equipment. As the children got older, that was taken out, and a concrete pad was put in with a basketball court. So that was about 10 years ago. The so-called kitchen, the outdoor covered kitchen, is movable, but it is within the side yard. And the koi pond, which is not movable, is also within the side yard. The shed has already been replaced by the current homeowner. So it was removed from the existing footings, and it was moved slightly away from the rear and the side yard setbacks. When I visited the site, I didn't have a way to measure that, but I do know that it has been removed. Is it completely out of the setback area? I'm not sure, but it has been replaced. It's been taken off the original footings, and it has been moved. The other thing that I wanted to mention is with regard to the impervious surface coverage variance that's being requested. The swimming pool is included in impervious surface in the village of Rybrook. I did a search on various codes throughout the county, and there are some that include swimming pools in the definition of impervious surface, because technically they are. If you empty the pool, it's concrete. It's not pervious, it's impervious. But when the pool is full, is it actually creating more runoff? It's difficult to say. The same is true of the koi pond. So without those two elements, there'd be no necessity for that variance. So one of the arguments that we feel is relevant is the fact that the swimming pool, even though it's calculated for purpose of impervious surface coverage, in many codes it's not, because if you look at its functionality, if it has any functionality with regard to stormwater, it actually can act as a retention or a detention facility. But that's causing the impervious surface coverage requirement. I don't really have much else to add. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Yes, sir.
I do have a question. You said the prior owner is here, correct?
Yes, sir.
What is her obligation per her agreement with the new owner in terms of correcting these items?
To get them corrected.
So this is basically on her, the person who created these issues? Or is the prior owner, I'm saying? If something has to be moved, the cost of that, who bears that cost?
It's the prior owner,
The prior owner would be.
correct.
How did this come to light?
Sale.
Yeah, as I explained, there was an open swimming pool permit. Well, Stephen can tell you, there was an open swimming pool permit.
Yeah, Jim, basically, when they filed to close out the permit, a survey is required, and then as I saw the survey, that's when we noticed all these other improvements were made without permits.
And I just want to point out, one of the reasons I'm raising that is, one of your arguments is that it's not self-created. And that's correct. The new owner didn't self-create it. The prior owner did, but the prior owner basically sold it, and he accepted that sale subject to this. So, in a sense, he assumed these issues, knowing that the prior owner's on the hook for it.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I say in my letter that it was self-created. What I said in the letter is that the fact that it was self-created alone is not sufficient standard to deny the variances. But it clearly was self-created. There's no doubt about it. They
Steve,
have been here for many years. The other thing I should mention, if you've done it, if you went by the site, the exterior of the site is completely screened off with landscaping, with arborvitae and other landscaping, so that these things are not even visible from the two adjacent properties.
Steve, can you possibly shed light, and it may be it may be out of your purview, but the two items that are over the easement, if the village had to go there for whatever reason, they, in effect, provide an obstacle for maintenance?
Yeah, well, that was the reason for the whole harmless letter, which stipulated that the village always has the right to go in at the owner's cost, at the owner's expense. So either the owner will have to remove those items and put those items back under their own cost, or the village will do it with notice. So that was the whole harmless.
Yeah, I have an easement between mine and my neighbor's property, and I've been in that house for 47 years, and and my neighbor puts nothing on that easement because the village comes there every so often, the maintenance crew, and goes down that easement and tries to maintain it. So what I'm concerned about is that we heard that the outdoor kitchen is in a movable state. So that's relatively easy, I guess, to move out of the way. But the koi pond is a koi pond, and that could be a problem at that particular point in time. And my interpretation is we have the possibility of if it's moved now, then there's no future concern with maintenance. But if it's delayed, and we hope for the best, that there'll never be a need, then the burden is then assumed by the owner at a later point in time. Is my reading of that correct?
Yes, Don, that's correct.
And what is the purpose of this particular easement? What's there?
Storm drains?
There's a storm.
Yeah, there's an underground storm drain, so technically you're not supposed to rest anything on a, underground pipe, for various reasons.
Yeah, I have a 3-foot diameter storm drain in the easement next to my house. And that's a very vital thing to push water into Rich Manor Park, from the different storm drains. And I'm just wondering if in the past, has the village ever maintained this one? In fact, if they didn't know it existed, they couldn't maintain it. And when they found out that it existed, have they maintained it?
No, they knew it existed. There's records on it. But that will be a question for Michael Nowak, the Superintendent of Public Works. If he's ever had to access it or maintain it, I wouldn't know off the top.
Could you ask the owner, the previous owner, if there's ever been a team that has worked on that?
Mr. Purcell, do you have any knowledge knowledge, has anybody ever, from the village, ever had to go and clean out the drainage pipe? Should I ask him to step up? It'll be easier.
Sure.
Come on, Mr. Casella, we can't hear you.
I'm sorry. No, it's okay. The board's asking if, while you lived there all this period of time, did the village ever have to come and do any maintenance or? You can introduce yourself.
No, they have never come. It's only a short drainage from the road, partially to the brook. It don't go all the way down. There's a underground concrete barrier that they had, and they used to have riprap from there down.
Right.
But because it ended up to being a mosquito haven, they ended up putting an additional pipe all the way down to the brook, and they've never had a problem since they did that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You know about when that was, when the village did that? I'm sorry, do you know when the village did that?
Oh, a long time ago, 20 years, more than 20 years ago. Because within the first 5 years, they had the problem with the riprap, getting algae and the mosquitoes, so all the people in the area in 5 Deer Run complained, and they ended up putting a pipe down to there.
Was the koi pond installed before that occurred or after
After
that?
that.
After that occurred, yeah. After that. Thank you, Mr. Purcell. Why don't you sit up front in case there's another question?
So would I be correct in presuming that the issue with the koi pond is, A, if they need to get to the drainage pipe, the koi pond's in the way, and B, if the pond becomes defective in some way where the concrete breaks or collapses, it could damage the drain? Those would be like the two primary issues?
Yeah, depending upon the size of the drain, the vegetation that's next to the koi pond could impact the piping or whatever size piping it is. I had that on my property where the trees decided to invade an iron pipe going out to the sewer, and it was compromised and had to be replaced. So that was the logic of my asking about that because one possibility is is for the board to ask that the koi pond be removed, which leads me to my next question. If the statement was made about the shed being moved, are you able to verify if it's conforming now to code?
I can only go on what the survey shows. I haven't been back to the site since last year, the middle of last year. So I don't know if it's moved or not. It still will have to be memorialized on the survey if it has been removed. We don't have a survey showing. We have a survey. The survey that was submitted shows it where it needs a variance.
Where was the shed?
Well, the follow-up to that is, since they moved it once, if it needs to be moved a little bit more in whatever direction, is it movable, the shed?
Yes.
So basically, if we deny the variance as to the shed, it could be moved to whatever proper location
bigger
without
shed.
too much difficulty.
And from my, just my observation, and I wasn't able to take measurements, from my observation when I visited the site, it looks like it has been moved from the original
If it
footing.
wasn't, if it needs to be moved another X number of feet, it can be moved.
I believe this room,
Okay.
no, the
It's,
shed.
yes,
Yeah, but Mr. Purcell hasn't seen the new shed location.
okay.
I would just like him to make a quick statement about the hold harmless agreement. With this hold harmless agreement, the village is not liable if the koi pond or anything within that easement area needs to be removed, causes damage, or issues. That is solely the responsibility of the property owner. If the village is forced to incur costs in order to remove these elements that are, obstructing the easement, the property owner would also be liable to reimburse the village.
And this is also true under common law. What most people don't realize, the street in front of you the right-of-way doesn't end at the end of the macadam. The right-of-way extends into most people's front yards. You put landscaping there, they have to widen the road, or if they have to make some improvements, the municipality or the county, whoever road it is, can take your landscaping out at your cost. It's the same kind of an issue. So that's what's occurred here.
One of our goals is to minimize the number of variances. and still meet the applicant's needs. So I'd like the current owner, if he could come forward, indicate how far closer to the pool, to the sports court was the shed moved? And is it possible to still move the shed to comply without necessarily adversely affecting the sports court?
I could ask that.
Please, ask, is it the new owner here?
The new owner here?
I thought you said the shed was there.
Shed, that's a
Right,
shed.
right. Oh, I thought you originally
No,
pointed
no.
to. Oh, okay. Because there was one back there. That's what I thought you were referring to at first. Oh,
Is it, it's a gazebo.
okay.
Is Mr. Zhu here?
No.
Okay, he's the applicant, is that an issue?
Well, you signed the application. I
Yeah.
represent
Okay.
the zoos, I've
Okay.
been coordinating this with their attorney as well.
If you want by comparison, this was the original, show where the original shed was at.
Yeah, because we have, in the past, we have asked people to move their sheds and other things if it's part of the application. Yeah, the shed is right there on the line.
And he said the shed was moved and it's movable,
Yeah.
so if it needs to be moved further, it can be moved further.
Right.
It was moved north, so it was moved away from the side yard. I think it's in the same proximity with the rear yard, but I think it was moved away from the side yard already. How much further it can be moved, I don't know.
Yeah, we're looking at the survey, and it looks like it's abutting the side yard, but at the same time, it's very close to the rear.
Right, and then this one, you have this one, right, that's the, where it was moved,
This is where it was moved?
this is where it was moved the second time, so I don't know if it's. The old shed was taken down. I believe the old shed was taken down, the new shed was put up.
I didn't realize that.
But
had
you
been
also see that
reflected in the
it butts up against that concrete pad, so I don't know if it could be moved, vertically, up. And
It's
instead of
also,
side to
but
side.
it is now, the new one is actually on part of the concrete patio.
survey. Right, it's kind of cantilevered.
You want to take a look at it? So you can,
Yeah, this is the new location.
and it looks like it's overlapping the patio, the sports court a little
Right on
bit.
the
It is, and it's kind of, the sports
Right.
court ends there, and it is a drop-off, so it's kind of cantilevered. So there's supports in the back that hold it up to the level of the sports court.
I am trying to pull up now the actual number of variances for the application. Six?
There are 5. There was a typo in the resolution. I apologize.
Okay, and with respect to the, the shed part, that's what I'm trying to pull up now. The actual wording of that variance for the shed.
And can I ask why all this work was done over the years without any permit, without
Well,
any request? Yeah,
I'll let Mr. Purcell answer for himself, but it happened incrementally. The Purcells lived there for over 40 years. Like I said, the sport court started out as a grass area with a jungle gym. As the children got older, they took it out, they put that down. That was over 20 years ago. The koi pond went in about 15 years ago. The outdoor kitchen, which Mr. Purcell tells me is movable, that went in over 10 years ago. The shed, there's sheds all over the village. There's sheds all over the village. And the impervious surface, as I indicated to you, but for the swimming pool, there isn't an issue. And I don't know how much, I served on the planning board here for many years, and but for the definition in the code, I don't really know what it adds in terms of sheet flow.
Yeah, except, while I don't disagree with that, I would say that, and we could grant a variance, but I would say that if it's in the code, that's what we go by,
Oh, it's no
right?
question.
So,
No
so,
question.
so it's kind of, I can't look at it like it doesn't really count. It counts.
I agree.
Even if you may not, or some people may not agree with that, but
I agree.
That's the card we're dealt.
It's in our code, I agree.
Yes.
And there's a difference between a contractor doing work and not following code and you didn't know versus not bothering to check what's permitted or not permitted over the years.
Yeah, I don't,
I don't know.
I
Yeah,
now know
and I
Mr.
don't-
Purcell
yeah.
for several months. I don't get the impression it was he and his wife's MO to try to get over on anybody. I just don't, I think it just, we'll put it here, we'll put it there. If you look at, I don't know if you've ever seen the entire subdivision itself. Have you ever seen the map itself? This is an oddly configured lot. It gets very narrow very quickly, which is part of the reason why I think everything, or some of the things ended up where they did, and that has to do with the configuration of the lot. But other than that, you want to,
Can I just ask a question? Is there still a basketball court on that patio or that's usable?
there's a basketball net, yes.
Yeah, what happened, we originally had the jungle gym for the kids, as they got older, and we're going to, grandkids came and said, we're getting too old for this, and what could we do? So we decided on the basketball court, and for the girls, I bought a bowling pin set, plastic, and they rolled the pins down on there, and the archery court they used there, so it's good for the girls and the boys, you know what I mean?
Does the Deer Run complex have an HOA, or are they independent?
There's no homeowners association.
Okay, okay.
That's why we
One,
wanna make it streets.
one of the problems that we've encountered as a zoning board, and I'm sure Counselor is aware, that most people who acquire homes in Rye Brook don't read the entire very thick village code of standards, and they pretty much think that they could do things incrementally over time without getting permits for that. And they do it perhaps in good faith. I don't think too many people do it deliberately, although I have known situations where they have. But most of the time, it's innocent. They just, as your children grow.
I agree with that, but as far as the shed is concerned, the gazebo 30 years ago, I called the town. They said as long as I didn't physically attach it to the ground permanently with a foundation, I could put it anywhere I want. The gazebo, they said same thing. Just put it there. Do not attach it to the ground. That's the reason why we put them where they are. I had no idea 30 years later there's going to be a problem.
If I were to call the building department today and say I wanted to put a shed up, they would probably tell me there's such a thing as a side yard setback and a rear yard setback. And it would have to be. That's what the building inspector told me when the town took an aerial photograph of my property and told me I was 2 feet into the Rich Manor Park, and told me if I didn't move the shed, they will take me to court. That was the last motivation for me to move my shed.
Well, we did move it from where it originally was. It was closer to the fence, and he could attest to that.
Exactly.
Moved it. I think he missed it by 6 inches away from the sidewall. When the guy moved it, he evidently didn't quite measure it right. It's within 6 inches of the side fence. Instead of being 5 feet, 4.6 or something like that.
Well, yeah, the variance, I think, just for the shed, but I'm referring to all of these incremental improvements that you've made over time. The shed is, you're requesting a rear yard setback of 3.65 instead of 4.60. So the statement is 5 feet is what is needed, and given all of this machinations of selling the property, it would have been a good idea to check how far the shed had to be moved to be compliant, so another variance wasn't necessary. That notwithstanding happened, it's in the past. Our situation now is, and we have several of these applications that come before us. When there's a pending sale, the building inspector notices certain infractions of the property, and they're brought to our attention. And we're put in a position as a zoning board of having to say, take them all out, take some of them out, or let's just approve this and move on. we are governed by 5 factors by the state of New York, as your attorney properly pointed out in the application. That's what we have to use, but it's still very frustrating when we have an application coming before us with a substantial number of variances, and we are put in a position of either saying, knock them all out, knock some of them out, or do nothing. That's the position we're in. And I just wanted to let you know, not just you, but all the other people, the millions of people who are watching on Rybrook television, that this is an issue. And you know, the argument that a lot of people say, it's a lot easier to ask forgiveness than to ask for permission. And that puts us in a very difficult position as colleagues of you and citizens of Rybrook to have to make these kinds of decisions. But that's the position we're in. Is there any other questions of the?
And just to be clear, the setback on the shed that's listed here, that's
the new
the
one?
setback that existed prior to moving the shed, or the current, or currently after the shed's been moved?
This is currently after the shed's been moved.
Right. So it currently requires a 1.35 rear yard and 0.40. Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Are there any other questions?
Whose responsibility is the shed? Well, because weren't some of the other things there,
Everything was there.
but the
He's
shed.
made the shed a little better by moving it, but it was still.
Yeah, he tried to preempt.
See that other-
He when he got the list of what the violations were, I guess he tried to preempt and do the
Yeah.
movement before.
And he didn't
You know.
quite make it over,
Right.
but he
Did he
reduced
ask
it.
you, Steve, at all? No. Okay, so somebody came and said, let's move it here, whether it's the applicant or the contractor. Somebody decided where to put it.
And it can be moved, I believe it can be moved a little.
I know, I moved mine, so I know it can be moved.
It's not, there's no foundation to it.
But there is a cost. I mean, there is a cost to move.
Yeah, understood.
And literally, we're talking a foot, so, you know.
Right, that's the issue.
Yeah.
Okay, no further questions. Can I have a motion to close? Oh, is there anyone in the audience who wants to speak for the application? There being none, anyone
There's
want to
someone back
speak?
there, Don.
Please come to the podium and state your name, your address, and your clarification request.
I want to clarify the attorney, actually.
Oh,
My name is Ben Tapper. I live at 4 Deer Run, the property to the south. I'm sorry, I think it's to the south, up the hill.
Next door,
Yes,
facing
Deer-
to the right?
Deer Run is weird in that it's sequential. So if you are staring at the front of 5, I'm to the left.
Okay.
As number 4, 6 would be to the right.
good.
I think it's south too, yeah. You. Hi, Sharon. Okay. No, lost dogs and cats. That's how we know each other. And down trees. There is actually no cover on the 5 Deer Run side of the fence line. The arborvitaes are actually on my property, which is 4. So I wanted to clarify that. That was it.
Good, okay, thank you. Anyone else want to speak in favor of the application? Anyone want to speak opposed to the application? Okay, there being none, can I have a motion to close the public hearing? Okay,
Second.
second, okay, the public hearing is closed. Okay, so we've been down this road before. The question is, you know, we talked about moving the koi pond now, or hoping for the best, and the possibility of moving the shed. My guess is if the kitchen were moved, it would be moved right back, you know, and then just moved as necessary if needed.
I mean, the shed, it was frankly, I would have said, move it, it's movable, they've moved it, but at this point, they've moved it, and it's so de minimis at this point, I'm inclined to leave the shed alone. You know, it's probably the easiest thing to take off the list, but it also doesn't make a lot of sense at
Right.
this point.
I agree. I agree. The, with respect to the collectivity of the variances, we all saw the material that Mr. Tartaglia submitted. I just have a concern with one. I don't think it's the end of the world. It's not going to change my mind, but just pointing it out, I don't think all of these collectively are de minimis, right?
No
So
question, it's not the minimum.
it's not de minimis, okay, and it's self-created. There was, Steve, maybe you can confirm this. Somebody came to you and indicated that they lived nearby for a couple of decades, and it's never been a problem to them. Do you recall that?
No, I think they called in and spoke to somebody in the office. They didn't speak directly to me, but that message was related, yes.
That they were neighbors of some sort, and it hasn't been a problem. The issue comes to the character of the neighborhood, and it was brought out by Mr. Tartaglia that these things are not visible from the street. And you all saw pictures or visited, you saw the vegetation around it.
Any flooding issues?
Steve, are you aware of any flooding issues?
No, I'm not aware of any flooding issues over there.
Someone in the audience is saying there is.
It's right on Line Brook, there is flooding there, yes.
Can you come to the front there? And just clarification, because we all know we're following the current situation at Brook Lane and the attempt to buy houses from people in that particular area.
My name is Sharon Heller. I live at 22 Lincoln Avenue, which is the property adjacent to 5 Deer Run and 4 Deer Run to the south. So my driveway borders Mr. Tapper's there along the driveway, and part of my yard borders 5 Deer Run. But both my property at 22 Lincoln Avenue and 5 Deer Run is on Brine Brook. Back during the recent storm, I think it was Ida, there was massive flooding there. 6 Deer Run got flooded out, which is to the west of 5 Deer Run. So it came down, it was flooded. I think it was up to his back door, so his whole backyard was flooded. And then the way the brook runs, it kind of curves around and it actually goes into Harrison. So we actually have an overflow of the brook on the Harrison side. As it comes down underneath my bridge there, or the bridge that crosses my property into Harrison, is an old fire bridge that's been there since, like, I think the 1890s. But if you look at the stone wall on the Harrison side or the purchase side of the property, that's been all washed out from the flooding, which is right behind 5 Deer Run and my property on 22 Lincoln Avenue. So there is massive flooding at that time. During Ida also, the flooding was so bad it came up over the bridge. And I had the gentleman from 6 Deer Runs, his swing set, his kid's swing set actually ended up in my yard. So, yes, there is flooding in that area.
I'm going to raise a question. I don't know the answer to this. Given the impervious situation, if the variance was denied, and for the sake of argument, the pool had to be gotten rid of and turned back to grassland or whatever, is that something that would make a difference in the flooding situation? Or am I just, is that
Well, no,
irrelevant?
she's not qualified to answer
No, I
that
know
question,
she's not.
yeah.
I understand this
Right.
is not directed at her.
Oh, then,
It's
okay.
a question in general.
Okay.
I wasn't expecting you to answer that.
No,
Right.
It's a question in general, whether it's relevant, the impervious situation here is relevant to any type of flooding issue.
No, I just think the flooding is from Brine Brook, and like I
Right,
said,
but-
as it comes down from Westchester Airport and on down, you saw all the houses along Lincoln Avenue were affected, like 42 and 48, and the bridges were taken out there. And as it, like I said, as it comes down through Deer Run, 6 was affected. I'm not sure if 7 was affected or not. And then it goes across, it kind of widens out, or actually our side, the east side of Blind Brook is a little higher than the west side. So the water floods out towards Harrison, and that becomes, and where the municipal park is, and that becomes like a lake during heavy rains and storms.
According to Village Code, if this application came before the building department for the swimming pool, the sports court, the koi pond, the shed, and everything else, it will exceed the 400 square foot trigger to require a storm management system. But because these things were done incrementally, without permit, there was no stormwater management system required for this property, which is another issue.
And I think that's kind of hitting it right on the nose.
But the problem is, what can be done retrofittedly if they were to put Cultec units on the property now, and they basically would have to be in an open area, probably on a grass area. And what would they do? We're just not in a position to be able to judge that as a board. I don't think we have the technical expertise. Yes, please. You've heard this drill before.
I have heard this before. I live downstream. I live in Brookridge Court. I've lived in the village my whole life, 70 years. It never used to flood. Now it floods. In Ida, I lost my whole basement. This problem is incremental. This problem is also a problem that is added to by every property along the Blind Brook. It's exacerbated by the fact that the Blind Brook runs through different jurisdictions. So the village comes along and says, well, we're going to try to help Avon Circle, we're going to try to help Brook Lane, but until the town of Harrison does what they're supposed to do, the issues remain. So is there downstream flooding? I can say absolutely. I've suffered from it. Is this adding to it? Every little bit adds to it. Is removing this going to help it? It's not going to help it. There's bigger issues. There's bigger issues north of here. There's bigger issues. In my own opinion, having nothing to do with this, we really need a flood control district, an intermunicipal flood control district created by the county, so that the resources are all together. Monies can be borrowed, properties can be assessed for purposes of the district to try to start to solve this problem. To think a zoning board or a planning board can solve this problem on a koi pond that's the size of that tabletop, is laudable, but I don't think it's really going to help much.
No, I agree, and as a resident here for 47 years, I can attest to the evolution of the flooding problem. The infrastructure is not capable of handling the demands placed on it by the properties.
Yeah, one thing, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump up. One thing I would add in response to your question, there is a portion of this property that's within the 100-foot the 100-year floodplain, and there's a portion of this property that is within the 500-year floodplain. I think if you look at the GIS maps, and I think Council has it pulled up on his computer, you can see that even the 500-year floodplain is to the west of the swimming pool. I don't think the swimming pool or any of these improvements, with the exception of maybe the gazebo, are in either of those floodplains.
Thank you. Okay.
I think one of the issues is there were so many variances, and picking one, picking at them doesn't really do much, especially the shed. And yet, as you said, cumulatively or collectively, there's a lot there. There's a lot there. And we normally try to split the baby down the middle, so to speak, and I'm not sure you could really do that here.
No, I agree. No, I agree. My first reaction to seeing the application, but the more I dug into it, the more I realized the interrelationships and the fact that in putting a cost on the new owner would be in my opinion, unreasonable penalty.
The cost is on the new owner, the cost is on the prior owner.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'm assuming that, I assume title was granted with these provisions, and, we don't know, but this may have been part of the negotiating.
Well, it was, that's why the old
Right.
owner's here.
Right, right. But I mean, even in the purchase price, and so, no, I'm just saying it's, I know we're trying, okay.
No, it's a tough one, yeah.
I mean, my take on it, very bluntly, is put aside the impervious for a second. The rest of that stuff, it's fairly minor, maybe don't, the kitchen, since it's movable, get it the heck out of there. But it's all fairly minor. So it's either you basically accept it all, or you look at the impervious and knock out everything, and say 1,600 square feet on the impervious is ridiculous, and you knock out the pool, the pond, the blah. It's really one or the other.
Yeah, but it goes back to the character of the neighborhood and the environmental concerns, which I think we all are sensitive to. The question is, if we did anything on this particular property, I cannot say with any degree of certainty that it would make an improvement.
Yeah.
Therefore, I'm inclined to follow village code with respect to what we can and cannot do with respect to our purview with this application. Like I said, if it came before the building department now, they would require a stormwater management system. Whether it would help or not, the law says they would have to do it if it's 400 square feet.
So what are you saying?
I'm saying there's nothing we could do now. There's nothing we can do now, I don't think. I don't see a window, and if nobody else on the board sees a window other than approving this, then we have to go ahead and approve it.
The only thing that is a concern is just precedent.
No, there's no question about it.
Well,
We
this
are
is
going
a
to see more
somewhat unique,
applications.
yeah.
It is unique to this property, but we are going to see more applications. And we would have to judge them on their merits as they come before us.
Because if they had come before us and saying, we want to add a pool and a koi pond, and we need a 1,650 square foot variance for the impervious, I sincerely doubt we would approve that.
Not without a storm management
Yeah.
plan.
How old's the pool? So a lot,
Yeah.
Basically, Don, I don't disagree with you.
No,
I just find it, I'll say aggravating, but I
Yeah.
don't disagree with you.
All right, as we go through the 5 factors, I think that the variances are substantial and they're self-created. The other 3, I think, are not jeopardizing the application.
Is there anything that needs to be conditioned? So like the koi pond needs to be replaced.
Well, they hit the limit with impervious, and I don't know where they are with GFA, but
I thought maybe the koi fish would go into the pool, and then get rid of the koi pond.
I was gonna say, or they'll wind up in the
Blind
Blind
Brook.
Brook.
They'll wind up in Blind Brook, as my neighbors did. Okay, let me go ahead and read this. The resolution is broken up into 5 separate, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to consolidate them, okay, for purposes of expediting this. Whereas application has been made to the Zoning Board of Appeals by Dan Zhu, care of Dan Tartaglia Esquire, the applicant, for 6 area variances in connection with the proposed legalization of interior and exterior additions and alterations, including a rear elevated deck with steps to grade, swimming pool patio, walkway expansion, outdoor kitchen, koi pond, concrete patio, sports court, generator, fencing, and finished basement on property located at 5 Deer Run in an R12 zoning district, and said premises being known and designated on the tax map of the Village of Rybrook as parcel ID number 135.65-1-41, the property. And whereas The applicant seeks relief from the following requirements of the zoning code. I'll go through these and then cut them later on. 1, Section 250-37, Section C, the maximum allowable total impervious coverage is 5,518.19 square feet. The total impervious surface that currently exists, which the applicant seeks to legalize, is 7,167.38 square feet, thereby requesting a variance of 1,649.19 square feet. 2, Section 250-6, Section B, Item 1, Part A. The minimum required setback for a patio terrace is 6 feet. The concrete patio sports court that currently exists, which the applicant seeks to legalize, is constructed at the side yard property line, thereby requesting a variance of 6 feet. 3, Section 250-6, Section B, Item 1, Section A. The minimum required setback for a patio terrace is 6 feet. The outdoor covered kitchen on the patio that currently exists, which the applicant seeks to legalize, is constructed 1.7 feet from the setback, thereby requesting a variance of 4.3 feet. 4, Section 250-6, Section B, 1, Part A. The minimum required setback for a patio terrace is 6 feet. The koi pond that currently exists, which the applicant seeks to legalize, is constructed at the side yard property line, thereby requesting a variance of 6 feet. 5, Section 250-6, Section B, Item 1, Part H, referenced in 91-4B, Section 1. The minimum required setback for a shed is 5 feet. The shed that currently exists, which the applicant seeks to legalize, is constructed 4.6 feet from the side yard setback and 3.65 feet from the rear yard setback, thereby requesting a variance of 0.4 feet from the side yard setback and 1.35 feet from the rear yard setback. Whereas duly advertised public hearing was held on April 2nd, 2024, at which time public hearing on the application continued. All those wishing to be heard were given such opportunities. Whereas the public hearing was closed on April 2nd. Whereas the proposed action is a Type 2 action pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, and accordingly no further environmental review is required. Now, I'll go through the 5 factors. Whereas the board, from the application, after viewing the premises and neighborhood concerned, and upon considering each of the factors set forth in Section 250-13, Section G, Part B, Item 2, Section B, Items 2A through E of the Rybrook Code, finds with respect to the variance from Section 250.37.c of the Rybrook Code, allowing a total impervious, okay. I'm not going to go through each of the 5. I'll do it cumulatively. Okay, so we'll go through one of these 5 factors, but they'll apply for all. The variance will not create an adverse impact to the character of the neighborhood. Agree?
Yes.
The benefit the applicant seeks cannot be achieved through another method feasible to pursue that does not require the variance. 3, the variance is substantial. 4, the requested variance will not create any adverse impact to the physical or environmental condition of the neighborhood. And 5, the need for the variances are self-created. Okay, that applies, in the opinion of the board, to all of them. Now, therefore, be it resolved that said application for the variances to allow total impervious coverage of all of them, oh gosh, I'll collectively say, no permit or certificate of occupancy shall be issued until the applicant has paid in full all application and consultant fees incurred by the village in connection with the review of this application. Okay, are we comfortable with that? All right, let's vote. Steve is excused. Glenn?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Don, yes. Application approved. 4 yeses, 0 nays, 1 excused. Okay, congratulations. Thank you for that application, Dan.
Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate it.
Just on the bench.
Sure. You think it was me who took the water pill? It was. Do you need the computer or a tripod or anything? There is a tripod back there. You could do that in the meantime. Thank you. Okay, thanks for getting that. You did a good job presenting that, huh?
I just find it very annoying, but.
Of course. You excusing this one? Is this Winding Wood?
I'm excused, but mine was next, not. this
Okay,
one
no,
is
not
the
Country
one
Ridge,
after
right.
this is Winding Wood.
We're just waiting for one of the board members to return.
No problem.
I don't know why, when I look at it, I'm in this window like this on my computer, and I can't get it out of, like, this narrow band.
Oh, hit the plus minus.
I do,
Oh,
but I'm like, almost like this, it comes up. Oh. I haven't figured that out.
see, if you click on the left here, see that shows up?
Yeah.
Which I don't like because it takes away. Okay, next, oh gosh. I gotta jump ahead and read the application, just a moment. Gotta go back to the beginning, all right. Okay, the next application, ZBA 24-003 Joseph Nerenberg, 9 Country Ridge Drive, widen full length of driveway and install stormwater management system. Okay, please state your name and your agency.
Certainly. Joseph Nerenberg, I'm the property owner of 9 Country Ridge Drive. I'm joined tonight by Greg Cacciapoli, my licensed civil engineer, and thank you for letting us walk you through our proposal. We appreciate it.
Okay.
I prepared some remarks. I wanted to read to all of you
Please.
some of the reasonings why I'm pursuing this project. Greg's going to walk you through some of the technical details of, obviously, the proposal in question. My wife and I purchased our home just over 1 year ago. We are proud Rybrook residents. Our neighbors have been most gracious, welcoming us to the community with open arms. We know we made the right decision to call Rybrook our home, and we look forward to planting roots here for years to come. While we love our home and our property, it became immediately apparent to us that our driveway presented some challenges. Challenges we hope to rectify in the proposal we present to you this evening. I've identified 3 primary issues that I would love to discuss, and I believe are addressed in our proposal. 1, the issue of the driveway's utility. As you can see from our documents, the driveway in its current configuration is one that we would describe as a single curb cut and single car width driveway. While this was likely sufficient in the 1960s when my home and many others in the community were built, it certainly has not kept up with the times. Many decades ago, it would have been more commonplace for a household to own 1 car. In our modern society, with the average household having 2 or more vehicles, this naturally presents challenges when we discuss things like vehicle maneuverability. Having to shuffle cars in such a limited space means vehicles constantly starting, stopping, as well as entering and exiting the street. I think we'd all agree that constantly utilizing the street for maneuverability increases the likelihood for accidents and decreases the safety of both pedestrians and oncoming vehicles alike. If one of the fundamental purposes of a driveway is to provide vehicle maneuverability in a safe and contained environment, certainly my driveway is not meeting those standards today. 2, the issue of public safety. I touched on the safety issues posed when shuffling multiple vehicles in the driveway. There's a separate safety issue that pertains to the curb cut width of the driveway in its current form. To understand the issue in its entirety, you would first need to understand the geography of the Country Ridge subdivision and the surrounding public roads. The Country Ridge subdivision is a semicircular subdivision of homes adjacent to and surrounding the elementary school. There are 3 points of entry and exit into the subdivision, all connected to North Ridge Street. Given the location of our home, we, along with our neighbors, utilize the Fairlawn Parkway exit onto North Ridge Street. This means that when returning home, we always approach the home on our right-hand side. Due to the limited width of our single curb cut, a vehicle does not have sufficient turning radius to pull into the driveway from the right-hand side of the road in one fluid motion. In order to maneuver a vehicle into the driveway, a driver is forced to choose between two dangerous maneuvers. Maneuver A: momentarily veer to the left-hand side of the road, providing a greater turning radius, but positioning the car in the way of potential oncoming traffic. I would add that this is exceedingly dangerous given the road curves just beyond our home and means that oncoming traffic may have a blind approach. Maneuver B, or Maneuver 2, stay in the right-hand lane and proceed to make a three-point turn into the driveway, forcing a car to remain in the street longer than should be necessary and requiring the driver to reverse into oncoming traffic to gain enough turning radius with a three-point maneuver. In either event, neither of these maneuvers should be acceptable to do something as simple as enter or exit the property, and as stated, create unnecessary safety issues for the surrounding community. Addressing all the utility and safety issues we've discussed so far can only be achieved by widening the driveway at all points along the length of the driveway, up to and including the curb cut. Issue number 3 is the issue of equity. Gentlemen of the board, hopefully I've provided you sufficient reason to look favorably on our renovation plans this evening, but I want to provide you some additional points of information as you consider your decision. When Greg and I initially set out to create these plans, we wanted to perform a study to understand the surrounding neighborhood and how our property compared to that of our neighbors. We wanted to ensure that not only were we addressing the issues previously mentioned, but that we were doing so in a way that would conform with the surrounding homes in our neighborhood. We evaluated 36 homes in a 500-foot radius of our home, and with the assistance of public records as well as satellite imagery, attempted to capture statistics for each property. We looked at statistics such as the total lot size and the total area of paved driveway to establish a percentage of paved driveway relative to the size of the lot. We believe this is an important metric as it puts all houses on equal footing when establishing an average for how much of a property is currently paved driveway. In our findings, we established that the average driveway in our neighborhood is just under 1,200 square feet, and that the average percent of paved property is 7.42% of total lot size. Our home at 9 Country Ridge currently has 490 square feet of paved driveway and represents 3.25% of our total lot. As you can see, even doubling the existing square footage of our driveway would still represent a driveway that is smaller than the average of our neighborhood. Once again, I want to thank you for inviting me tonight to bring this proposal before the board. I'm going to hand it over to Greg to walk you through any of the particulars. Thank you again.
Sure. Please.
Good evening, members of the board. I guess I'll just quickly go over the numbers in terms of what the existing driveway is and what we're proposing. The existing driveway is approximately 10 feet wide. Here's an existing site plan. The existing driveway width here, 10 feet wide, and we're proposing an 18-foot wide driveway that flares into 21 feet at the 25-foot front yard setback. The total increase in impervious surface is 365 square feet, so we're under the 400 square foot threshold. However, we're still going to be doing stormwater management mitigation. We're going to be mitigating 706 square feet of impervious surface. We've decided to capture roof leaders as opposed to the driveway. However, it's still going to be an enhancement in terms of stormwater.
Where's the roof exiting now? Is it downspouts?
Yes, correct.
And are you going to capture all of the roof?
We're capturing the front half of the roof.
Front half.
Correct. So that's
Where are you going to, what are you going to put there and where are you going to put them?
so the roof actually slopes. The ridge comes across the center longitudinally, and the front half of the roof slopes towards the front. However, the gutters pitch to the left on this side and to the right on this side to prevent pipes coming across underneath the driveway and for easier maintenance later. We did a separate system on the right and a separate system on the left to capture this portion of the roof will be captured here, and then this portion of the roof will be captured here.
Is there any disturbance to that large oak tree that's there? What, is it going to be impacted at all?
Yes, it would have to be removed as part of the plan.
That's a 30-inch diameter oak tree?
Yeah, and it's about 5 feet off the corner of the house.
I think closer than that.
Right, I'm looking at it, yeah.
it's definitely a danger. That's shown here, 30-inch oak.
Right. So you consider it as an absolute necessity to remove the tree to do what you want to do?
Yeah, absolutely. It'll just cause problems for the improvements. And
You'll probably damage the root structure when you,
yeah, absolutely. When they go to excavate for the driveway, definitely damage the roots.
Did you have to present this to the tree committee?
No, not as of yet. You're our first stop.
No, he'll have to file for a tree removal application to the Public Works Department.
You'll probably have to do some additional plantings to make up for it and whatnot, yeah.
I don't think we're objecting to that.
Yeah, that's not us, I'm just saying, yeah.
you know, when I listened to your, your making turns and everything going in, if I could get it some kind of approximate handle on how many people in Rybrook have to do that, including myself, I'd back out of my driveway. Have you thought of putting a hammerhead in there and keeping the width of the existing driveway so that a hammerhead will allow you to exit the property and even leave a vehicle there instead of widening the driveway? Did you
It's a
consider it?
smaller project.
It's a much smaller project. It will not help you turning in and out and going in the middle of the road. Everybody on my street goes in the middle of the road. Country Ridge Drive isn't exactly Ridge Street, so it isn't that much of a hazard as you're coming in and out. People respect each other. They know them for the most part. And when you move to swing wide to go in, it's rarely a problem. If you were on Ridge Street, I'd say, wow, you really have to be careful.
And the bottom's already flared out.
It's flared out. It's flared out.
Yeah, it's about 9 feet, I want to say. Like when the flare goes in, it's about 9 feet wide. So with the flare, it's still something like 12, 13 feet potentially at the widest point. Again, for a modern vehicle, vehicles have gotten significantly bigger over the decades. It's a tight fit, if I'm being completely honest. The hammerhead, to the point that would be like a bump out, effectively, right? Leaving the first so many feet.
It would enable a car that went into the driveway forward would be able to back into the hammerhead and come out of the driveway straight, which only addresses the exiting, but not necessarily the entrance, which you based a lot of your logic on. The other thing is you're asking for an 18-foot wide driveway, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, now, Steve, in terms of normal sized, there's no such thing as, I guess, a threshold, but what's the minimal amount that you can get 2 cars in and out?
Well, I think one of the things he is seeking is to be able to not park his cars tandem.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, a car width is about 10, 11 feet. So 2 cars, I think the minimum is, depending, like you said, some cars are bigger than others. I don't know what kind of vehicles he drives, but,
Well,
like
the
a
variance is going to the house, not to the current owner with.
Right.
Now, they could be driving 2 tiny Teslas and,
I mean, a typical parking space is 9 by 18, so that's where we came up with an 18-foot, two parking spaces wide, so that if a car is parked, the other one can get past.
that's what I was
comfortably.
getting at is
So that was the logic behind the width.
because we've heard that argument before. I just
Right.
wanted it to be formally stated here.
Okay, got it. Yeah, that was the logic behind it.
Does,
Determining how
What is the
wide.
width now?
The width now is 9 feet,
No.
maybe 10 feet at the flare.
does it have to go down as far as it does to achieve what you want, meaning towards the street? Like, because I'm okay with the width closer to the house to be able to have a second car. I have a driveway that's supposedly a 2-car garage, but I can't fit 2 cars in there, and it's annoying so I know exactly what you're talking about. But you have it kind of going like almost 3/4 of the way down. If you just had more of a bump out,
You could pull the
Closer to the
car
house.
into the bump out, and then the driveway is free to pull from out of the
Yeah.
garage.
is it?
Yeah, so again, the attempting to widen it as it approaches the street was important also, given the implications of getting into the driveway. I can attest to the fact that the dangerous maneuver that I choose to use when I get into the driveway is veering in oncoming traffic. There have been situations when, again, cars approach around what is a blind turn at me, they don't necessarily see me until really the last minute. Not the safest way to do it, right? I understand the concern about ultimately, listen, nobody wants people to turn their front yard into parking lots. I am not looking to turn my front yard into a parking lot. I am simply hoping to really achieve a comparable level of maneuverability in my driveway that others in the neighborhood seem to be afforded today.
Yes.
I just want to clarify that the application is ordered to park vehicles within the parking
25.
setback.
Right. And that would be, I walked by something yesterday that literally the applicant requested a double lane driveway, and the cars are right up on your cement blocks. So what appears to be the obvious request for the application oftentimes in practice turns out to cars being right in there. Not just neighbors visiting for a party, but all the time. How wide is your flare out in the proposal? How wide is that flare out?
26 feet.
26 feet wide.
In an analysis that we did of the neighborhood, there was actually not an uncommon size of a flare out to find at the curb. In fact, I would say in terms of what we would consider a double wide driveway, at its sort of average point, we were looking at something between 20 and 22 feet. The flare out could easily be north of 22 feet.
Why hasn't the village changed the code to allow wider driveways for everybody? The code is what it is. That's what we're basing the decision on, what the code is. You're suggesting that the code should be something other than that because other houses are wider now.
To be fair, I'm sorry to interrupt you, I don't think anything in our proposal is really violating anything of the code except for the parking in the first 25 feet, which, again, we wanted to try to demonstrate a proposal here that really was actually narrower within those first 25 feet to prevent parking.
Right, because technically, I mean, as I said, a parking space is 9 by 18. I cannot fit two 9 by 18 rectangles within this front yard area. So
It was what, 17.9 feet
17.9
roughly?
feet.
So with the AASHTO size of a space at 9 feet wide, we're trying to stay under that two-car width in that space in the first 25 feet. So again, to allow a pass-through for the garage.
That's why the flare is at this location, because technically if I came 18 feet back, it would encroach on this flare, and that's why it was placed there. But,
If you go 25 feet from the front lot line, does that go right up to the house, or where does that go?
it comes to about here, which is at the halfway through the
Yeah.
walkway.
So
Let's see.
arguably, just if you did the hammerhead, that would not be in violation of the 25 foot, correct?
If it was between my two fingers here, then it would not be in violation.
Which, am I wrong in saying in all probability that if you were to do a hammerhead, that's probably where you would do it? Is that likely?
I'd probably do it a little bit further, closer to the street, because they're at the back.
All right, so maybe you would need a small variance, but not, you know.
So right now, a variance of 18.84 feet, right?
Yeah. All right.
Unenclosed off-street parking within 6.16 feet of the front lot line, requesting a variance of 18. Variance of 18 feet off 25 is huge, isn't it?
Yeah.
What would be other options that you could pursue to achieve the,
By a variance of 18 feet off 25. Can you clarify that?
yeah, the parking shall not be developed within 25 feet of the front line. And you're requesting a variance of 18.84 feet from that variance of 25 feet.
We're requesting a driveway to be a double wide driveway within 25 feet of the front yard setback. There's really no measurement in terms of, like, you're not measuring 18 feet to a certain specific location. 18 feet is the width. So I'm not really.
Yeah, I'm not sure where you're getting the 18 feet of it then.
What that
I-
is
I-
referencing.
I think what I'm trying to clarify is that when you flare it out here, you could theoretically park a vehicle where it starts to flare out, and that would be
That's the
within that 25-foot parking
So,
setback.
I tried to discuss this prior to coming to the ZBA, but if I can prove that you cannot fit 2 parking spaces in the 25-foot setback.
Why do you want to park two? You just want to
You don't
use
wanna park.
the
He just
area to
wants
move
it as
through.
access.
Right.
Well, he just wants as much space as possible. So if I can show that it's not parking, it doesn't meet the requirements of a 9x18 parking spot, and then I can fit 2 of those. And I cannot fit 2 of those in front of, within that 25-foot setback. Technically, I shouldn't even have to present to the ZBA. Because there would be no parking, because you can't fit legally 2 9x18 parking spaces.
Then why do you need a variance?
I was wondering that.
We're not sure that we do.
We're not sure that we do.
Steve,
The
do you want to remind
the code is not what you are going to use it for, but what you're creating. So you're creating the off-street parking within that 25-foot, front yard setback. That's what was, Mr. Nerenberg may not park there, but who knows? 10 years from now, he may sell. Somebody else may park there. So that's why the code it doesn't specify that you can create it as long as you don't park there. It just says you can't create it.
So,
I'm trying to understand. So, if you have a car in the garage, and you have a second car, your second car would be, let's say, as you face down to the left, and it's far over on that driveway, on the expanded driveway. Are you saying that you couldn't back up the car out of the garage because
as it currently is, or as to what they're,
as to what they want to do? Because it seems to me they want to widen it significantly, yet it's not significant enough to
it's not
actually
gonna serve the purpose.
right. Like you, it doesn't look like you could get the garage car out.
Then what's the
Anyway.
point of it then?
In theory, you could potentially squeeze by, I mean, again, parking at 9 feet.
You have to
right?
go,
But
please
wouldn't
go
a
before the mic.
hammerhead make a lot more sense in that it completely resolves the issue of being able to maneuver the car in and out of the garage, which I understand you have these other issues, but I would think that's the primary issue.
It certainly assists in it, I can't deny that. What I would say is.
Steve,
that
do you have a mic
widening
for him to use a microphone?
What we were bringing to the board with the curb cut was the safety issue presented in approaching and in fact exiting, right, in such a limited width at the base of the driveway, right?
So theoretically, you could widen the bottom of the driveway 3 feet to give you an easier turn. Is that, and that would satisfy your concern about turning in, right? 3-4 feet, that's it?
It would certainly help. And then at that point, though, you're saying to widen the curb cut by 3 feet, but then have the,
The same driveway with or without a hammerhead.
That you're trying to reduce from here to here, right? So this portion.
No, I'm not, right, again, and it's not what I would want. I'm just saying, if you widened even the first 7 feet after the cobblestone and made it an easier entry,
it would certainly help.
that would alleviate a concern regardless, right? And I don't even, that's not a variance issue, right?
I think it's not after the apron that's the problem. Turning here is the issue. So flaring this makes a vehicle able to access here without doing a 3-point turn that he was speaking of out of the right lane. Which is why you have to come left and then.
All right, so if I'm I'm gonna take from what you were just saying, if you slightly widen the apron.
Absolutely.
You slightly widen the apron, no, if I understand correctly, no variance is needed for that, because that's not creating parking. And then you, if you want, then you do the hammerhead at the top, so that that clears the pathway from pulling in and out of the garage also, if I understand correctly, wouldn't require, unless you go into that 25 foot, but at least it'd be a much smaller variance. It wouldn't require much of a variance.
Right. There was another thought process behind this. He's got a one-car garage.
You need the microphone, please, so the audience can hear.
The portable.
He-
He has a one-car garage right now, right? That in the future there may be plans for a two-car garage.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
That's called incremental creep.
Well, he's
So if I had the money to bring, to
If
bring
you-
the full
No,
plan
but-
to do a two-car
See, not-
garage now.
see,
I
not-
One of the concerns that we have as a zoning board is that an applicant is made to do A, and then a year or two later, they come back and they say A plus B.
Well, we already did A, so it's not
Why
a big
not
deal to
do
do
B?
B now. Yeah.
so. But if we came here with a garage that is 9 feet wider, right? If we put an addition on his house and added 9 feet, we would have no choice but to make it 21 feet wide. So why not?
No.
Since he's spending the money now, prep for his two-car garage that he may
we
need
don't
in
do
the
By the way,
future.
I don't know that I'm
Yeah.
pursuing
Yeah.
that plan.
We don't-
I'm
we don't-
simply
we don't
trying
do prep.
to
We don't know,
That-
but
Yeah, that's off the radar completely now.
And I don't know what variances you would
But that
need
was
for
the
that
thought
extension,
process.
so.
I was saying he's got side yard setback if he wanted to do a garage. He's got the space on the side to do it.
Again, we're not even coming here
Yeah.
today to
yeah,
talk
that's
about
not
that.
even
This
part
is
of the
sort of
proposal.
irrelevant.
But that was my thought process in the width, is what I'm saying, when I was approaching the home, to prep it so that later, if he did, it was already.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you exactly where I am as I'm sitting here right now. My impression is what you're trying to do is admirable, but it's too much. There are alternatives that, as we've been throwing things out, that are, I think, very workable, that resolve a good portion of your issues and require minimal, if any, variance. And it just seems to make a lot more sense.
For clarification, because I think one of the things we attempted to do was create a plan that did conform completely with the code as it stands today. If we agree, we use the ASHTO, and maybe you could speak to ASHTO, to establish what the standard parking space is. At 9 by 18, this is according to the ASHTO manual, that is a parking space. If we added driveway if we widened it to 17.9 feet. in
I'm talking
theory-
about widening, what I was talking about, just widening the apron maybe a couple of feet.
But I'm saying in
Okay.
theory, if we had widened the driveway in its entire length to 17.9 feet,
Right.
we could make the argument that we haven't introduced any additional parking, any ability to park in the current driveway, because you'd need 18 feet to park two cars side by side. So, do we even need the variance, is really what.
I can't answer that. That would be something to address to the building inspector, but I can't answer that.
Again, the way I interpret the code and the way the code has been interpreted, if once you widen within that 25 feet, if you don't have the 20, you need to widen within that 25 feet, you need a variance. That's the way.
The amount that you've widened doesn't introduce the ability to park, and you're under the 400 square.
If I may,
You need the microphone.
if I may, and tell me if I'm wrong here, it takes into account not just what you're adding, but what already existed to create that theoretical parking spot. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can say it that way too. But again, just from a clarification is, that's why a lot of people choose to leave the apron and go up and contour and they widen out if they have the length. But unfortunately, your driveway, as it is only about 40 feet. So you can't really widen until you get 25 feet up, and that's why you need the variance.
What is that widening threshold? So if he has a 10-foot wide driveway right now, we make it 13-foot wide, based off of what he said, we would need a variance. And I don't understand
If
that
you're just
part.
winding the apron, I don't think that would count the same way, though. I'm not sure.
But I would, so if I have an apron that's 12 feet and I want to make it 14, and then I keep his driveway at the same width that it currently is,
And maybe add a
and then
hammer on
add
top.
like a hammerhead here where half of it is within a 25-foot setback and half is not, but this width is 8 feet, so it's not wide enough to be a parking space right here. I should be able to show that that's not a variance, but according to him, it would have to go here for a variance.
And given and I'm not gonna speak for everyone else, but given everything and the efforts made at that point, I would probably be much more, I'll say, benevolent towards that proposal as an attempt to meet what you need and working within the code to the best you can.
Clear.
If he wanted, if he wanted to add room, could he, on the top portion of the parking lot, put it where that oak tree is and make that? I'm just wondering if that was, and then.
Or you talking about making a hammerhead going that way?
Well, kind of, not just a hammerhead, but maybe like if it wasn't more than a hammerhead, more of a straight in, and if that was something that he wanted, are there any restrictions on that? So he would park parallel to the house, kind of come in
So
here.
you'd pull in and then make kind of like,
Right.
come around like that.
Right after the 25 feet, you'd widen it a little bit and go there. Is that even an option they could?
To me, that's a hammerhead. I understand it's
Right.
not exactly
I think
the
of a
same shape,
hammerhead as
yeah.
being.
That's something. That's a doable thing.
Right. Okay.
I mean, the issue here is that it's a one car garage, 1 car driveway.
Right.
So it's not, if it was a 2 car garage driveway, then it's different, but, you're still within that 25 feet, you're widening.
We
as you
have
go.
examples in our study of the neighborhood of houses with 1-car garage with double wide driveways. Plenty exist in the neighborhood.
33 out of 36. Not
Yeah, do you have those?
Yes, they're in our, some of the documents that.
Yeah, they're in the
we
documents
submitted.
that we submitted. It was.
I want to say 9 Holly is.
You really
one
need
that-
the microphone for benefit of.
I want to say 9 Holly. It's right around the corner from me. It's a house that's a perfect comp here. Single car garage, quite a wide, double car wide driveway. Would be an example I would cite here.
Right. I mean, so out of 36 within a 500-foot radius, 33 have a double wide driveway. 32 have double curb cuts. 26 out of the 36 are 2-car garages. 2 of them are 18-foot garage doors, so 2-car garages, but just single door.
Why are you comparing yours to
'Cause we're
a
within
home that
county.
has two garages? Those should be taken completely off the table. The code is written, and the zoning board is to give relief at the smallest possible variance that meets the needs of the applicant. My interpretation of having a wider curb cut, to me, it doesn't ring with me. Because when and everybody on my street goes in their driveway, they don't hug to the lane. In other words, if you're making a right turn in, you swing wide, you look for another car coming, and then you go in your driveway. That's not safety or any of that stuff. That pales to other safety issues that exist in the village. That's just common sense. You see a car, you wait, they pass, you swing into your driveway. The reason they issue the 25-foot ruling is to prevent people from leaving their cars in Rybrook very close to the street. Certain sections of the village, such as on Ridge Street, near the shopping centers, those houses are almost right on Ridge Street, and they need massive relief for parking, especially if they're 2-family homes. This type of house in this location is a 1-car garage with a driveway as built. Some of those that you cite may be pre-existing conditions. They may have been built and approved before the village code came into place. But right now, the village code is what it is at 25 feet. And homes are expected, whatever their situation, to abide by that unless there's sufficient reason. What we're trying to do is allow you to get what you want, well, mostly what you want, because that other part on the road is driving into something else. Achieve your goal with a smaller variance from the code. That's basically what the questioning has been from my colleagues. So I guess
It seems that it's doable.
it's doable. So one possibility is to take the application, rework with a bump out or another alternative that you come out with. We are not going to define what it should be. And bring before the board a revised application. And that revision can take any form that you want. Bring it before the board at a later time, or go for that request as it exists now. And if it's denied, what's the ramification, Steve, if it's denied?
Yeah, if it's,
They can reapply at some other.
Sure, they can reapply.
New proposal.
Yeah, they can reapply or amend and reapply if they want it.
Right. So you have that option. You can discuss it, you know, Mr. Nerenberg, you can decide on that since you're the applicant, whether you want to do that or whether you want to vote on that application today.
Point of clarification, you had asked why we were comparing our house to those with two-car garages. This went back to the study we performed, you know, to take a 500-foot radius of the home. Naturally, there will be homes in that 500-foot radius that were both two-car garage and one-car garage. The variable that we looked at to sort of create a level playing field was this concept of the lot size relative to the amount of paved driveway. And so that's something that regardless of how many garages you have, in theory, based on the size of your lot and how much paved driveway you have, there's some ratio where you will find an average for the neighborhood. And that was, again, the point that I had made to say where it's something like 3.25%, the average in the neighborhood is something like 7.242%. So 1 to 2 cars, it's about really just an inequitable situation.
There are 8 single-car driveways, 8 single garage homes. 3 of them are double, which 3 of them are single, which means 5 of them are double, I would presume.
Yes.
So, you know, so it's about almost half and half.
See, what you're in effect doing with the last statement is you're redefining the village code to driveways.
I certainly wouldn't want to do that. I'm putting out, you know,
Exactly. As I said in the previous application, most owners of homes in Roy Brook, when we buy our homes, we're not experts in zoning codes. And so I didn't know there was such a thing behind me known as Rich Manor Park. I thought it was just a park. Then I was told it's not a park, it's to hold water. It's a swamp, okay? So I didn't know that. I've got trees falling down all over the place, and I'm told that that's good for nature. But it looks like I live in a tornado area. So I can't redefine the village code the way I would like to see it. Let that be a park, let people walk there, let them chase their children around there. It's a swamp, but it's called a park. So the code is the code. The code is based on the 25 feet so that we don't have cars parked on the streets in Rybrook unnecessarily. That's the logic as I interpret it. The argument that it should be based on the square foot of the lot, you know, using that argument, if I've got a 26,000 square foot lot, you know, I should have a 5-car wide driveway because it fits in your average. That's not the code. The code is 25 feet. That's the standard.
Yeah, I actually have the perfect example of size. My house is similar to yours. I have a 1-car garage, and I do have 2-car garage envy. And
would you say you have a double wide driveway as it stands today?
I wish, but my actual driveway, interestingly, is I have a carport with underneath, but you could put a car under it, but I don't. But I can go up to the top. So at the top, it's wide enough because I can get a second car. It's not a hammerhead, but it's wider.
Right.
Joe, because you know my house. Yeah. But I could put 1 car and maybe a second if I really tight. But when I back up, it's kind of narrow at the bottom. I've hit the brick side a little bit. So, and I have a pretty, for Rybrook, because I'm on a curve, a pretty large size property, and no one cares that I could support a bigger driveway, and I've wanted it, right? But I was told, you know, you'd need a variance, so I've never asked. But that's the way we did it, and the people before me. But it gave us plenty of room to have 2 cars backing out, and your by the way, your bottom is I have flare envy also, because you have a much nicer and wider bottom than my driveway. So to me, it doesn't look that hard to get into, but I certainly think you can widen it near the top.
I mean, so
With no
basically,
problem.
just
Yeah.
getting right to the nitty-gritty is, as Don said, you can submit it. If it's approved, great. If it's not approved, then you can redo plans and bring a whole new one, or you can put this off, come back with a rework plan. Your choice.
We would probably look to rework the plan based on this feedback.
Okay, thank you. So that this be adjourned to the May, what is it, May 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? What's the date?
May 7, I think. May 7th.
May 7th? Okay. All right, thank you very much. Okay. The next,
And I'm going on this one.
okay, the next, not to the restroom. The next application is ZBA 24-004 Cameron Sager and Jessica Sager, 41 Winding Wood Road, second-story addition of a garage, enclosed porch, new front entry. As was indicated in the notification, one of the board members is within the notification zone. That would be Joel. So he has recused himself, which leaves us with 3 remaining board members. In order for the decision to be approved, you need a unanimous approval of all 3 of the members. So please introduce yourself.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jacqueline Tyler with Tyler Architecture and Planning. I also have the homeowners here. Cameron and Jessica Sager are here as well. Before I start, I just want to make sure that we would have an opportunity as we proceed through the application, that if there are items that are suggested similar to the last application, that we would have the opportunity to adjourn as opposed to coming to a full vote. Is that correct?
Yeah, I had, when I said earlier, up until the point of the application, but even after the application, you could choose to move out of that window and deal with any revisions if necessary.
Okay, just wanted to confirm that before we started. I appreciate that.
Can I have a motion to open the hearing, please?
Oh, motion to open the meeting?
Seconded?
So
The application is now open.
Okay, thank
I
you
see.
very
That's
much.
in honor of Rob. Okay, please.
So thank you for that. Again, we're here tonight for 2 variances. So we started this process a couple years ago. We had a couple setbacks, but we're in front of you tonight. So wanted to walk through those quickly. We did submit a letter. I'm sure you all have that in your possession, which included going through the 5 different requirements for the area variance. So tonight we're here for both a front setback variance. The existing front setback is 35.7 feet to the existing garage, which you can see in that photo. The requirement is 40 feet at the front setback. So we are looking for a 4.3 foot relief based on the fact that we are looking to build directly over top of the garage. That's the most economical solution for us in regards to utilizing the existing foundation and the existing perimeter walls. I do have some photos here that I'd like to distribute to you, as well as letters of support that we have received from the neighbors adjacent on either side of us, as well as one of the neighbors across the street. So I'm going to go ahead and share those with you real quick.
Thank you.
I got that. Thanks.
So the reason we're sharing those photos are for a couple reasons. They're more pertaining, the first few photos are pertaining to the second variance. The back photos are pertaining to the first variance. What you'll see in those photos are, and some of these are split level. I want to clarify that right from the beginning. But you will see that within the neighborhood, there is a similar massing in regards to building over top of the garage, which is how we came to the solution that we did. In regards to, so that addresses the character of the neighborhood. Again, you know, looking at the elements of the economics, we're trying to do what we can here in order to keep this economical for the clients based on some hardships that they've had over the last few years. The second variance that we're looking at, and then I'll go through the reasonings on them, is the coverage. So this is pertaining to the main building coverage only. I want to point out that we are significantly under the total impervious coverage for the entire lot. So what we're looking for here is a 1.4% variance. Permitted is a max of 16%. The existing is currently 16.046, so we're actually just over the permitted max, and we're proposing 17.4%. The reason for that, and if you look at the first few photos that I shared with you, the current entry of the home is very tight. If you look at the third one, you'll see if someone opens the front door, you're blocking that corridor that leads to the half bathroom as well as the kitchen area. So we are proposing to utilize the existing front porch as the entry, so pulling out the entry and then providing a front porch, a new front porch in front of that that entry, the new entry. Again, these aren't significant in regards to percentage or in regards to the fact that we are maintaining the existing front setback. The only change is the massing at the second level. So while we don't think that there's an undesirable change to the neighborhood or detriment to the nearby properties, again, you have letters of support, which I think also speak to that. As far as looking at another feasible method, we did look at some other options. We looked to try to incorporate a split level so that the massing wasn't as high. However, there's no easily feasible way internally to accommodate a split level above there. Logically, you'd have to go above the basement stairs, and in order to maintain your height in the basement stairs, you're forced to go up to that full level. So we did look at that. Whether it's substantial, again, we don't feel that the relief requested is substantial. No physical or environmental conditions will be impacted. Whether it was self-created, I would say yes. I feel like almost always it is self-created. It's something you're looking for. So while it is self-created, we think that it is the appropriate solution here on the site. So I'm happy to answer any questions, take you through any of these. I will pull up the elevation.
I just want to point out that for members of the board and others, this is a pre-existing nonconformity. Okay?
Correct.
So that enters into our condition, our understanding, so that the reason it's non-conforming is because it was done before the code was put into place. So
What in particular is non-conform?
The
front yard setback. So what they're doing is that they're just rising above the pre-existing, so that part of what we should be looking at is the fact that it was there pre-existing. Now, question I have is, we've had quite a few split level redesigns, and normally what we get from the architect is, oh, it's so hard to work with this split level. We'll do our best to make it currently habitable, as opposed to the person who originally built it. But whenever there's a portico, one of the things we are always concerned about is the variance is for the pre-existing, but what would happen if something was built above that in the future? So
Above the new portico.
above the portico, right?
Understood.
And the current owner and as you as architect don't plan on that.
Right. Understood.
But once the variance is given, it gives them the opportunity to fly up over that if they want to bump out a room and go through the added expense of doing that. So what we usually do, and I can't speak for the other colleagues,
Add a condition.
is we put a condition in that you would have to come before the board if you're going to do anything of that sort.
Absolutely.
Even if it might already be necessary to come before the board.
Right.
Think of it as a belt and suspenders kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So, at some point you would consult with the applicants to make sure that they're comfortable with putting a condition on any variance that would be granted.
They're here. I think that they would be. I mean, knowing the configuration there, I think it would be very difficult for somebody to be able to get in there because it's attic area, but I understand the concern. So I'm getting the a thumbs up. So, so we would be happy to add that in as a condition.
Okay. The only other issue that I had with that is that, I think that particular area, and I guess Joel, who's recused himself, would indicate, and you would know, it's pretty tight, and those houses are pretty much tight together. So that one of the things we look at is how it would impact the character of the neighborhood. And so when you drive through Winding Wood, the full amount of Winding Wood, what we have now in Rye Brook on that particular street is a very diverse
Correct.
cluster of housing. Some are plain ranches, some are splits, some have been blown up into colonials and so forth. So
Agree.
it is an evolving area for sure. So my take is adding a second story in that environment doesn't appear to be problematical on face in terms of character. The question then is with respect to the size of the variances. So if we were to ask you, based on your previous workings with the applicant, is this the smallest possible variance that you can come up with that will meet the needs of the applicant? And have you tried others, and what were they, and why were they rejected?
Yeah. So again, we did look at a split level, but that doesn't change. One, I don't know how to achieve it internally, but it doesn't change the size of the variance. So even if we were going to do a split level, that massing would still have to come to the front setback, the existing front setback, the pre-existing non-conforming. So that doesn't change that number. So again, that it's the 4.3 whether we do a split level or not. In regards to the coverage, we did look at different sizes. However, again, we are only proposing an additional 1.35. And even looking at those numbers, we said, okay, if we pull this back a foot or so, we're looking at a 0.02% reduction in that. So we do feel like we are at the minimum in order to keep everything proportional in the building.
Okay, thank you for that, because that's one of the basic questions we're always going to ask. What would be alternative designs? And oftentimes when you're doing a construction on something, you have to take into account the nuances of the house and what would be options. And I'm sure the applicants and you have bounced this back and forth
We have.
a number of times. Jamie, do you have any questions of the architect? No? Okay. We have, in terms of, is there anyone in the audience, other than the 3 letters that we've received and will be entered into the record, supporting the application? Are there any other members of the audience who want to support the application? Is there anyone in the audience who wants to speak in opposition to the application? Okay, there being none, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Closed, okay, public hearing is closed. Okay, in terms of the size of the variances, I'm comfortable with them being not substantial. Are you comfortable with that? Okay, obviously it's self-created. How about the character of the neighborhood? Comfortable with the addition being, with that? Environmentally, are you required to file any kind of stormwater management capturing?
No, the only additional square footage is 100 and, apologies.
Right. So you're within the 400
Yeah,
foot
126 square feet additional coverage.
Okay, where's the water going to go from the new addition on the second story? How are you?
So we'll be relocating the gutters that are on the lower roof up to the top roof and tie into the same downspouts that are currently on site.
And where are the downspouts going? Onto the property?
Yes, they go down there.
And are you capturing those just in the front?
There's 2 at either the front corner. So right here and here.
Right.
And then the same location in the rear.
Okay. All right. And there's no problem with the runoff now? Okay. All Okay, so there's no need for stormwater management. Okay, I'm comfortable with those factors, there being not substantial but only self-created as being the only negative. You comfortable with that?
Yep.
Okay, let me read the resolution. Whereas application has been made to the Zoning Board of Appeals by Cameron and Jessica Sager, care of Tyler Architecture and Planning, PLLC, applicant for 2 area variances in connection with the proposed construction of a 2-story master suite addition over the garage, enclosure of the porch, and a new front entry on property located at 41 Windingwood Road in an R15 zoning district, said premises being known and designated in the tax map of the Village of Rybrook as parcel ID number 135.26-1-1. Christian, can you write that condition as I'm going through this? Okay. Whereas the applicant seeks relief from the following requirements of the Rybrook zoning code. 1. Section 250-6, Section F, Part 7. No permit shall be issued that will result in the increase of any dimensional nonconformity. The existing nonconforming structure has a front yard setback of 35.7 feet, where the minimum required front yard setback is 40 feet, per Section 250-20, Section G, Part 1. The applicant proposes to build a 2nd-story master suite addition over the garage, which would retain the existing nonconforming setback of 35.7 feet, thereby requesting a variance of 4.3 feet to allow an increase in the existing nonconforming setback for the proposed 2nd-story addition. Second, Section 250-37, Part B. The maximum allowable main building coverage in an R15 zoning district is 16%. The proposed construction will result in an increase of the main building coverage to 17.4%, thereby requesting a variance of 1.4%. Whereas a duly advertised public hearing was held on April 2nd, 2024, in which time all those wishing to be heard were given such opportunity. Whereas the public hearing was closed on April 2nd, 2024. Whereas the proposed action is a Type 2 action pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, and accordingly no further environmental review is required. And whereas the board from the application, after viewing the premises and neighborhood concern, excuse me, and upon considering each of the factors set forth as Section 250-13, Section G, Part B, Item 2, Section B, Part 2, A through E, of the Rybrook Code, finds with respect to the variances of the Rybrook zoning code to allow an increase of dimensional nonconformity where the existing nonconforming structure has a front yard setback of 35.7 and a minimum front yard setback of 40 feet as required. And the second application finds with respect to the variance of the Rybrook Code to increase the main building coverage to 17.4%. where 16% is allowed. Okay, let's go through the factors. The required variance will not create any adverse impact to the character of the neighborhood. The benefit the applicant seeks cannot be achieved through another method feasible for the applicant. The requested variance is not substantial. The requested variances will not create any adverse impact to the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood. And 5, the need for the variance is self-created. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the variances are provisionally granted at this point for the following reasons and upon the following conditions. No permit or certificate of occupancy shall be issued until the applicant has paid in full all application and consultant fees incurred by the village in connection with the review of this application. And secondly, okay, Christian, you want to read that?
This is my proposed language. Any alterations which would alter nonconformities shall require ZBA approval.
Okay. All right, comfortable with that? Okay. Be it further resolved that said application for variance from Section 250-37, Section B, to increase the main building coverage to 17.4%, where 16% is allowed, is hereby granted. Okay. And the other one is also hereby granted. So the both variances will be granted subject to the following vote. Steve is excused. Glenn?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Joel excused. Don, yes. Application approved. 3 yeses, 0 nays. Congratulations.
Thank you. Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, Christian, here you go.
It felt so left out.
Okay. Okay, moving right along. The next application is ZBA 24-005 Jamie Billington and Cara Billington, 6 Bonwit Road, second-story addition, one-story rear addition, new deck, new portico, siding, and windows. Right?
If not, I assume you all have copies of the drawings and I could just talk through it if we can't get that set up. But I would, well, that's the only way I would get something visible larger. But
Hang in there, Joe, hang in there.
I'm still in the fade. Past my bedtime.
I know the feeling.
Except for those non-meetings we've had.
Yes, the resistance is low, right?
okay, that's something. Great. Yep. Thank you. My name is Evan Sikowski. I'm the architect for the homeowners, Jamie and Cara Billington. Jamie is here with us tonight in case we need her, and hopefully we all look familiar to you because we were here almost exactly a year ago to present a very similar but slightly larger version of this project. And we did appreciate the approval that we received a year ago for that project. Unfortunately, it turned out to be beyond the budget of the homeowners, and so we were faced with redesigning and reducing the scope a bit. They had their dream home a year ago designed, and unfortunately, like I said, we've had to take just a little bit out of that. We are actually looking for 2 variances tonight, one of them being for gross floor area, and the other is for impervious coverage. Currently, the lot is an existing non-conforming lot in terms of impervious, and we are actually proposing to reduce that, just not enough to get us below the threshold there.
So when you reduce, you still need a variance?
Yeah, I mean, funny enough, I wasn't sure of that, I guess, but that was the letter that we received.
What did you take away to reduce that variance?
So let me jump to this for a second. This is the existing survey, and what you can see here on the side is that there's a paved area that comes around on the side of their house right here. So we are actually eliminating, actually I can draw on this. Hold on a sec. So we are actually eliminating this whole paved area over here on the side of the house. Now the coverage of the proposed house is growing ever so slightly. It's about 40 more square feet than what currently covers the lot. And we are reconstructing the deck to accommodate the addition on the back of the house, and the deck is growing slightly, but because it's actually going over some of that existing paved area and we're also taking away, overall we're net reducing by, where is that number?
All right, but you are increasing the impervious by, or not decreasing the impervious as much as you could have been by extending it over the prior paved area.
I guess that's correct. I mean, there is currently a deck there. So they have an existing deck and they have an existing patio. It created, it's all non-conforming as it currently sits. In order to create the first floor portion of the addition with the expanded kitchen at the back of the house, we have to reconstruct the deck. And there's just some logic in terms of how that laid out, that it grew slightly, so it's just the same width of that rear addition. And it does meet up with that patio nicely. So
Can I ask, Steve, can I ask you a question? If they weren't removing that concrete walkway or whatever, and they were just extending the deck and whatnot, would they still need the variance on the impervious?
Well, yes, because they're already existing over the impervious already. So they came in with the application already being over. So that's what the catch was. They're already over the impervious. So now they're trying to bring it into a little more conformity, but they still need a variance.
yeah, the only way to truly make it conform would be to basically eliminate that patio, and that's just not something that the homeowner would like to do right now. I will mention, just Jamie reminded me tonight, that it is something, and it's not part of this application and obviously can't be guaranteed because of the cost, but they do have future intentions of reducing the size of their pool. They actually don't want it to be as large as it is right now, and it's but it's just the cost is just too much to include it in this project. So it's, for the moment, it's just, a thought.
Boy, that goes into the record books.
To reduce the size of a pool.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work that goes into that.
Yeah.
And normally, I'm thinking of a recent application that bypassed us, but the person wanted to do significant laps in their pool, which created a somewhat large pool that upset the neighbor.
I'm sure, yeah.
Because it came closer. But that's a one for the record books, I think.
So that is the one variance, and then the other one being the gross floor area. And just for reference, when we were here before you a year ago, we were asking for, I actually have the original version of this here. Where's that number? We were asking for almost 500 square feet. It was a little under 500 square feet. So we've taken off more than 200 square feet from that ask. So we're still asking for, I'm sure the math is in the disapproval
751.
notice, but it's actually under 300 over what's permitted right now. It's like what'd you say, I think 290 or something like that we're asking for. So we did reduce from the last ask, in terms of what they're looking for out of their home and what we feel there are, and a year ago I stood here and I presented a number of different homes that had been granted variances that were as substantial as the one that we were granted a year ago. Again, this one being reduced, but this does get them the space that they are looking for, for a young and expanding family and a modern home, as opposed to the smaller spaces that currently exist in this house.
Now, netting all of the changes that you're doing, are you within the 400 square foot disturbance area?
We're reducing our impervious coverage,
Right.
so there
So
is.
net, you do not have to do a stormwater management plan?
Correct.
Okay.
I was actually going to ask that question because I live around the corner. Is there a water problem there?
I don't, not that I'm aware of. Jamie, I don't know.
I'm not sure if it's this house or another house I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
I walk my dog there, but I sometimes see water coming from some drainage.
Yeah, Steve, are you aware of any issues in there?
No, I'm not aware of any
Area?
water issues, no.
Okay, yeah. Okay, is this the, I know you've gone through iterations, but in your opinion, you feel this is the best that you can do in terms of?
I do, again, in terms of the spaces, and there have been a lot of compromises. We eliminated a bedroom that they wanted. We also drastically shrunk a home office that they were looking to add. Both of them do work from home, and so having that office space is helpful to them, and it is now a much smaller space. In my opinion, we've done what was possible, while still creating good design and good architecture.
Okay. All right, fine. Thank you. I just wanted, for the record, have that,
Sure.
those iterations documented. Do you have any other questions of the, no further? Okay, is there anyone in the audience who wants to speak in favor of the application? Anyone want to speak against the application? Okay, there being no comment from the audience. Steve, are you aware of any letters coming in support?
No, I just wanted to make one comment to Ms. Sikowski. On the zoning legend there, you have the wrong address on that zoning. Christian pointed that out. You got 10 Country Ridge Drive on there.
Okay.
I thought I had emailed you about that, but Christian just reminded me. Yeah.
Well, I must be here for the wrong house then.
We just approved it. No. So that would be what, 10?
On ZZ1, he has the wrong
The title blocks.
title block. He has to give me a revised on that.
Okay. So I still go with the 6, number 6?
But the zoning analysis is based on 6 Bonwit, not on the.
Yes, yes.
Okay, good. Okay, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion close.
Okay, any comments in terms of the size of the variances? You feel they're substantial? Variance of 11 and 258
The 258 is not-
proportionally.
Yeah, it's not unsubstantial. Yeah, I would go the 258 is substantial.
You would, okay.
That's
You
just
you
me.
agree with that, Jamie?
Yeah.
Okay, comfortable with that? Okay. Self-created, how do you feel about the character of the neighborhood? No impact?
No.
No impact.
Okay. And in terms of environmental conditions, no problem?
No.
Okay, and you feel it's the smallest possible variance to meet the needs. Okay. Whereas application has been made to the Zoning Board of Appeals by Jamie and Kara Billington, care of Evan Sikowski, the applicant for 2 area variances in connection with the proposed construction of second-story addition, 1-story rear addition, new deck, portico, siding, and windows on property located at 6 Bonwit Road in an R12 zoning district. Said premises being known and is designated on the tax map of the Village of Rybrook, parcel ID 135.50-1-40, the property. Do we want to condition the portico in this case? You feel it's necessary?
What do you think?
There's no GFA limit. They're not pushing the GFA limit.
And I would say no. I'd say leave it alone.
You don't want to condition it?
You want to? If you want to, let's then do it then.
I would, because technically they can increase it without
Yeah,
going over the
okay,
GFA.
then let's do it then.
So do you want to add the same one when we get to it?
You're talking about the house's gross, I mean, one of the variances for gross floor area,
Yeah,
unless you're,
belt and suspenders.
okay.
Okay, is the applicant comfortable with that, or
I don't think there's ever going to be an intention to build over that, but
famous last words, Evan?
just the entry portico, the little overhang over your front porch. Yeah.
You know, if I had $1 every time I heard Rybrook forever, it really should be Rybrook until my youngest child graduates and I can get out of the taxes. That's really the new reality. Whereas the applicant seeks to relief from the following requirements of the Rybrook zoning code. 1, 250-21 section E, the maximum allowable gross floor area is 3,023 square feet. The proposed construction will result in a gross floor area of 3,312 square feet, thereby requesting a variance of 11 square feet. Second, section 250-37, section C, the maximum allowable total impervious coverage is 4,850 square feet. Proposed additions will result in a total impervious coverage of 5,108 square feet, thereby requesting a variance of 258 square feet. Whereas a duly advertised public hearing was held on April 2nd, 2024, at which time all those wishing to be heard were given such opportunity. Whereas the public hearing was closed on April 2nd, 2024. Whereas the proposed action is a Type 2 action pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, and accordingly no further environmental review is required. And whereas the board, from the application after viewing the premises and neighborhood concern, and upon considering each of the factors set forth in section 250-13, section G, part B, item 2, section B, items 2A through E of the Rybrook Code, finds The proposed variance will not create an adverse impact to the character of the neighborhood. 2, the benefit the applicant seeks cannot be achieved through another method feasible for the applicant to pursue that does not require the variance. 3, the requested variances are substantial, mainly one of them. The requested variance will not create any adverse impact to the character, to the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood. And 5, the need for the variances is self-created. Now therefore be it resolved that said application for an 11 square foot variance from the maximum allowable gross floor area and a 258 square foot variance from the maximum allowable total impervious coverage is hereby provisionally granted for the following reasons and upon the following conditions. 1, no permit or certificate of occupancy shall be issued until the applicant has paid in full all application and consultant fees incurred by the village in connection with the review of this application. And secondly, okay, Christian?
There shall be no alterations which further alter any nonconformities.
Okay, we agree with that? Good. Okay. Okay, let's, if we're agreeable to that, let's take a vote. Steve is excused. Glenn?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Joel?
Yes.
Don, yes. Application approved. Yeses, 0 nays. 1 excuse. Congratulations. Okay. Our last application.
Do we always have to vote alphabetically?
Yes.
So much pressure.
Yeah, I know. You're up to the chair. You're up to the task. Okay, let me read the, okay. Application ZBA 24-006, Shubin Ma and Wen Hei, 10 Boxwood Place, for new deck. Okay, who's making the presentation?
Good evening, my name is Eva Filipovic. I'm the architect of record for the application for Wen He and Shubin Ma. The address is 10 Boxwood Place.
Can you talk into the mic?
Sorry, yes. So the address is 10 Boxwood Place, and we are asking for 2 variances. So my clients would like to build a deck outside of their kitchen, and we are proposing a deck that's going to be 245 square feet, which is 88 feet outside of the minimum, maximum impervious area of 5,000.
How does this compare to the prior deck?
So there was a prior deck there, and there was like a leftover patio door, which is currently just like this. The prior deck was also encroaching inside the rear. So there are 2 variance requests. One is for the impervious area, and the second one is encroaching into the side yard setback 4.75 feet, or 4 feet and 9 inches. The previous deck was also encroaching into that space, but it was like 6 foot, I think, which is a little bit not really functional to arrange any deck furniture. So given that they have to construct this deck, they would like to make it functional as well and have the best use of it. So they're proposing to slightly increase the width of the deck, and another reason being that it's also basically from the standpoint of construction, it's much easier if I show you here to make it like flat, to line all the girders in one line, and then to have like a small overhang of 2 feet, which would be 1/4 of this. So 1/4 of the span structurally. But
How wide is that? The part on the right?
10 feet.
Yeah, the part to the
overhang
right.
is 2 feet, so 8 feet main span and 2 feet overhang. And it's aligning, also the deck is like connecting to the back patio over here, which also existed. I can show you previous, this was the previous deck. This was the previous survey from 2007 when my clients purchased the house. And this is the current survey.
And
Just,
what was wrong
rotated to be-
with the prior measurement, the prior size of the deck?
Prior size of the deck, I think it's well, minus 14 times 2, 28 feet. So we are asking for another 28 feet. Compared, basically it was 60 feet, probably variance before, and now it's like.
I mean, but you're claiming the prior size wasn't functional?
The prior size is actually, it had to be demolished because it was in a very bad shape structurally.
No,
It
I understand that, but why are you increasing the size?
It was not functional, like a deck of 6 feet is really like, I mean, just to put 2 chairs in a deck and a table, you need like 10 by 10. So there's like 10 by 10 and then additional kind of passage to connect to this long passageway to the back deck. So that's the reason. So this is the proposed this is the proposed side back now, which is like 10 feet. And
2.5, 10 to
10.25, yes.
Now, facing those shaded blocks, that's the walkway from the front?
Yes,
So
yes.
facing the house from the street, these changes will be on the right side?
Yes, it's on the right side and it's quite screened from the street.
That's
It's
what
barely,
that's
yes, it's
looking
barely
at.
visible. And also from so this is the view from the street. It's also set back a little bit behind this front wall. And also this is the view from the neighbor. Actually, this is the view from my client's kitchen, but like the neighbor will have this evergreens that are completely screening the view towards the deck. So in our opinion, it is not really creating any adverse impact to.
How high is the deck off the ground?
It's 6 inches below the kitchen level, which is I think less than 4 feet, around 4 feet. I can check.
So it'd be very hard to see it from a neighbor.
Yes, very hard to see, both from the street because it's kind of on a. I think it's it's 4 feet 2 inches.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, it's actually less, minus 6 inches, which is like 3 foot 8.
Mm-hmm.
3 foot 8, because it's 6 inches from the kitchen level, from the 0 of the house.
Okay. And you said that oftentimes when we allow a deck to be rebuilt, normally we would say if it's, was it, Steve, less than 50% of the replacement,
Yeah, greater than 50%.
it's greater than 50%. Okay, so this is in effect, so they took this down with the intention of rebuilding.
Well, it was structurally unsound. I think it had like the previous, I mean, even though it had like a proper permit and approval, it was built in 1996, I think.
When was it taken down?
Recently, because.
Recently? Okay.
Yeah, because you have a sliding door there, so, you know, it makes sense to have something to go to.
Yes, and it does make sense to create like a 5-foot deck, which is what would the zoning allow.
But keeping in mind, it does connect to that long stretch, which I presume you have
Yes.
chairs placed there and people sit there.
On the long stretch, no, that would be only to connect, and that's also what
Connect to
existed
what?
before. It was only like partially, it was built in stone, and the rest was like a deck, like a wood deck. Now it will be all deck, yes. But the seating will be actually in this,
So what is that stretch for then?
I was asking.
to connect the back patio to this kitchen deck.
What back patio? That's,
Oh,
I'm a little
okay,
confused.
so,
Okay.
sorry.
Yeah.
So this is currently how it looks. There is an existing stone patio in the back, and there are like stairs, partially demolished, stone.
Is that a raised patio or is that on the ground?
This patio is on the ground, but like then the ground goes down as we like towards the street. So I think there is like 2 or 3 feet difference in between the back and the area where actually, so at the area where the deck will be, it's 4 feet off the ground.
All right, so there's a fair amount of, I'll just call it patio space. There's a lot of patio space there. It's not like you're relying on this one deck to put for as a sitting area. You got a fair amount of patio space already.
In the back, yes, but that's also morning sun, and this is the afternoon sun. And also they would like to connect them to be able to walk without going down into the grass.
Oh, I understand that, but I'm just playing devil's advocate a little bit. Regardless of the size, whether it's a 5-foot deck or a 10-foot deck, whatever, you have that connection. The point you were making, you wanted a larger area because you wanted a place where you can sit around a table.
Yes.
But you do have that on the other deck.
It's, patio, it's like flat to the ground. It's just stone paved, yes.
Okay.
As opposed to this, which would be like a wood deck.
I guess the direction of the questioning is this the smallest possible deck that will meet the needs of the applicant
It's the
without
smallest.
shrinking it a little more? That's basically the logic.
It's the smallest possible functional deck that would allow some kind of sitting, like because making a deck of 5-foot deck.
So what are the dimensions, length and width?
10 by 14.
10 by 14.
Yes. So 14 on this side.
It's not. No.
Being up.
They're not exactly deck deficient.
No.
Sorry, it's 10 by 13 and a half.
No, it's
So
not-
one
it's
area
not
would be
a
for
big
sitting, and the other one would be to pass and pass by and go to the back.
All right.
Okay, you have enough information?
good.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who wants to speak in favor of the application? There being none. Anyone want to speak against the application? There being none. Motion to close
So moved.
public hearing? Okay. What's your feeling?
On
Yeah.
When you go to read the resolution, there was a minor typo in the resolution before you. It's missing 3 of the
Yeah, you could
standard.
change it. That way I don't have to deal with it.
What I was going to say was that, on one hand, they're not exactly deck/patio deficient. On the other hand, it's not a large deck. As decks go, it's not a large deck, and it does make it from a less than functional deck into a functional deck.
More
Yeah.
than functional there.
Well, it's not. It's not making it really large. But
Right.
you also got to look at it in terms of it's not just by itself. There's a whole
Right.
configuration there. There's a roof, and then there's the lower patio. So it's not just
Right.
gee, this is a house with one little deck, and they need it, and they would like to have a deck. They have a whole thing, but again, it's not a dramatic. They're not trying to create a 20 by 20 deck.
Okay.
What's the room that the deck leads to come from?
It's a dining room.
Dining room.
Sliding doors?
Right.
The dining room. Okay. Okay, you have that?
Do you have the? Looks like you're missing it. I'm sorry.
Oh.
So for this resolution, it is missing those 3 standard, and it looks like I think that was accidentally omitted.
Okay, so give me that one
Well,
to
so
sign.
This is the application we're currently discussing.
Right.
And you just got to add in that
And then
language.
just cite these 3 whereases
Oh, so
for.
let me use that one and sign this one. How's that?
Well, this is the resolution for 10 Boxwood. That is the resolution for.
But you're gonna have to read the beginning stuff
Read
on from
all
the
of
other.
this,
Right.
and then right before you start discuss the factors,
Then you can
Yeah.
switch over.
just switch over to those 3 factors, and then use this one because my secretary.
Okay, all right.
I'm sorry.
Firing squad on Wednesday.
Well, you passed our test.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, I'm not really opposed. It's not a dramatic.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
I think there's screening. I think there's screening there. Again, as you said, it's not overly large. Yeah, I don't have a real problem with that at all. Would you consider that variance to be, one of them is, to me, is de minimis.
Yeah.
Well, the 4.75 proportionally is about a third.
Well, That's
That's substantial.
that's substantial.
Quantitatively substantial, but qualitatively not. Okay, and the 88 square feet, I'd say, is de minimis. All right. Okay, let me read and combine. Okay. What the hell is this?
So you're gonna start with this one, then just add in this stuff.
Yeah, okay, yeah. All right, gotcha. Okay, whereas applicant has been made to the Zoning Board of Appeals by Wenhei and Shubin sorry for any mispronunciation, care of Eva Filipovic, the applicant for 2 area variances in connection with the proposed construction of a deck on property located at 10 Boxwood Place in an R15 zoning district. Said premises being known and designated on the tax map of the Village of Rybrook as parcel ID number 129.67-1-22, the property. Whereas the applicant seeks to relief from the following requirements of the Rybrook zoning code. Section 1, Item 1, Section 250-20, Section G, Part 2, Section A. The minimum required single side yard setback is 15 feet. The proposed deck will result in a single side yard setback of 10.25 feet, thereby requesting a variance of 4.75 feet. Secondly, Code Section 250-37, Part D, the maximum allowable total impervious coverage is 5,299 square feet. The proposed deck will result in a total impervious coverage of 5,387 square feet, thereby requesting a variance of 88 square feet. Okay. Whereas a duly advertised public hearing was held on April 2nd, 2024, at which time all those wishing to be heard were given such opportunity. Whereas public hearing was closed on April 2nd, 2024. Whereas the proposed action is a Type 2 action pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, and accordingly no further environmental review is required.
And switch back over.
Okay. Whereas the board, from the application after viewing the premises and neighborhood concerned and upon considering each of the factors set forth at section 250-13, section G, part B, item 2, section B, parts 2A through E of the Rybrook Code, finds, 1, the requested variance will not create any adverse impact to the character of the neighborhood. The benefits the applicant seeks cannot be achieved through another method feasible for the applicant to pursue. The requested variances are substantial, one of which is the requested variances will not create any adverse impact to the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood. And 5th, the need for the variance is self-created. Be it resolved that said application for the variances from section 250-20, section G, part 2, item A, and section 250-37, section D of the Rybrook Code is hereby provisionally granted until we vote for the following reasons and upon the following conditions. No permit or a certificate of occupancy shall be issued until the applicant has paid in full all application and consultant fees incurred by the village in connection with the review of this application. Okay, are we comfortable?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Steve is excused. Glenn?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Don, yes. Application approved, yeses, 4 yeses, 0 nays, 1 excused. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And good
Thanks
luck with
for your
that.
time.
Okay, we have 2 minutes. I was present for the January. I think Steve was absent. I was absent from the March. Steve was present. So I can't vote on the second one, but are we comfortable with the January minutes?
Yes.
As approved? Yes, okay, minutes are approved. How about the March? I can't vote.
Yes.
Yes, 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 okay. The March minutes have been approved. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
I'm so tired I can't even get the seconded out.
Steve?